Quite an action-packed afternoon planned ahead of you, where we'll be covering different elements of the sustainable mobility ecosystem. There'll be exciting new announcements and also an insightful discussion with leading experts from the industry. So if you're all ready, then we can quickly get started without further ado by inviting onto the stage, ladies and gentlemen, the man who is responsible for Uber's global rideshare business in 70 countries across the world. Not just that, he is also leading Uber's global sustainability efforts. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Uber's visiting global executive, Senior Vice President Mobility and Business Operations, Mr. Andrew Macdonald.
Folks, great to be here this afternoon. My name is Andrew Macdonald. I lead global mobility for Uber. And it's really great and frankly really important to be back in India and to talk about a subject that's of vital importance to Uber and the cities in which we call home. Let's dive right in. We've got a packed day, but I want to just start with a little bit of context on Uber. Today, Uber is the largest mobility platform in the world, operating in more than 70 countries and over 10,000 cities and growing. On the right-hand side, you can see the various transportation options available in the Uber app, depending on the country and city in which you're in. On my visit so far, just in the past 24 hours, I've had a chance to check out Uber Green vehicles, to ride in an Uber Auto and on an Uber Moto, and even last night back to the hotel, taking an Uber Shuttle, which is our bus product. This is what we call the power of the platform. This is multimodal transportation options for consumers so that they can move more of their daily journeys onto the Uber platform and away from individual private car ownership. We are a global tech company that sits at the unique intersection of the physical and the digital worlds. This is actually what we consider to be our unique DNA. Since we were born in 2008, we've been making magic happen in a very complex physical world. And this reimagination and reinvention continue to this day. We've grown into a platform powering flexible earnings for millions and powering movement of people and things in ever-expanding ways. From four-wheelers to two-wheelers to 18-wheel freight deliveries, from takeout meals to daily essentials to pharmaceuticals when you need them, we can get you an incredibly critical market to Uber for many reasons, not the least of which, of course, is scale. We've got more than 800,000 active driver partners on the platform in India and growing quickly. I actually had a chance yesterday to meet with 8 of our top driver partners in a bit of a roundtable forum. These drivers collectively across the 8 of them have done more than 100,000 lifetime trips on the platform. And it was really enlightening and engaging for me to get a chance to spend time with these folks, hear about the difference Uber's made in their lives, but even more importantly, hear what we can do better. Beyond our driver partners, our scale's recognized in cities. We're operating in 125 today and trying to add new cities as fast as we can. And we're doing more than 500 million trips per year in India. But beyond scale, India is a really important part of our platform story. While we started with four wheels, we've moved to have multiple transportation options, including two-wheelers and three-wheelers, as well as what I mentioned, our high-capacity bus or shuttle product. We really strive to meet Indian consumers where they are at. And that tends to mean blending reliability with affordability. We've also got 2 of our most important engineering hubs here in India, Hyderabad and Bangalore. I'm visiting Bangalore later this week, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the team has to show me. And finally, but actually I think most importantly for today, and as you'll hear about for the next couple of hours, India is a really important part of Uber's sustainability journey, and we think Uber can be an important part of India's sustainability journey going forward. At Uber, our mission is to reimagine the way the world moves for the better. And this means actually tackling the impact that our vehicles have, the vehicles that are on our platform, head on. Transportation is the last sector to decarbonize. Transportation is the main cause of air pollution in major cities around the world and makes up 1/4 of global in 3 ways. So we're going to require change in 3 ways. Electrification, reduce reliance on individual car ownership, and an overall commitment to make cities more livable for all. Our mobility business is leading the way. So let's talk a little bit specifically about what we're going to do. Over the next 2 decades, Uber will build a zero-emission, multimodal platform for on-demand and pre-booked mobility. In the 5 years through 2025, we've committed $800 million in incentives to help drivers and fleets make the transition to electric. We're committed to enabling 100% of passenger trips in zero tailpipe emission vehicles, like battery EVs, on micromobility, i.e. bikes and scooters, and on public transit. By 2030, 100% of rides will take place in battery EVs in US, Canadian, and European cities. In fact, we think we can meet this 2030 goal in any city that partners with us to bring about the change needed for an electrified future. By 2040, 100% of the rides on the Uber platform will be emission-free, globally, whether those are in zero-emission vehicles, on micromobility, or on public transit. As you can see from the data shared here, we're a long way from 100%, but we're seeing really great progress. Importantly, higher utilization means lower emissions. When a rideshare driver transitions to electric, the savings are 3 to 4 times greater than when an individual private car converts. This is intuitive. Rideshare drivers spend more time on the road. We're seeing really great progress in the US, Canada, European cities, and really cities around the world. Uber drivers in Europe are going electric at 5x the rate of individual private drivers. In London, that number is 8x. In these leading cities, there are policies in place, and this is super important, that make the total cost of ownership of EVs comparable or lower than conventional internal combustion engines. This really highlights the potential for the ride-sharing industry to have an outsized impact on the world's transition fleet. And we need to support all of those who need to transition, no matter what the business model and who owns the vehicle. So here's how we're going to help lower those barriers. There's 4 pillars to this strategy. The first is in-app tech and education. One of the key ways in which we're doing this is an EV hub we've built into Uber's software that teaches drivers and fleets all they need to know in their given market about making the transition. The second way we're doing this is through incentives and savings. I mentioned the $800 million we've committed to helping drivers make the transition by 2025. We're also doing work to build EV charging support, working with both governments and private enterprises, including our global partnership with BP Pulse. And finally, we want to work with cities, states, and countries to have the right policies in place to make this transition. Our second action is focused on consumers. We are empowering riders to choose more green and more car-free products. Let's talk about a couple specifics. I'm very excited to announce Uber Green. It's our most widely available on-demand option for low or no emission rides. Riders can currently find it in about 100 cities globally across 2 continents. In London, We've doubled the number of fully electric vehicles on the platform since the launch of Green in March 2021. In fact, 90% of cars that drive the platform, that join the platform today in London are electric. In Paris, we focused on removing diesel vehicles from the road, and we now have more than 30% of kilometers traveled on the Uber platform in hybrid or fully electric vehicles. And in Lisbon, more than 12% of kilometers traveled on the platform are in electric vehicles. Beyond just EVs, Uber provides access to a mobility platform that has a number of low to no emission transportation options that are actually car-free. We offer journey planning and last mile transportation solutions for public transit agencies in 40 plus major metropolitan markets. This is an 88% increase from 2020. And we have micro-mobility options available, things such as bikes, scooters, and mopeds, in 170 major cities around the world, 3x the number of markets we had in 2020. In India, two of our most popular options, in fact they make up about 50% of our rides, are Uber Autos or Uber Motos, 2- and 3-wheelers. We know that many of these rides connect with public transit and are a great way for cities to transition to a car-light future. The road to zero emissions requires more than just change. It requires transparency and accountability to this change. Uber is proud to measure and report on our real-world use of the products. Our ESG report gets released annually, and a few things it tells us. One, Uber tripled the number of electric vehicles on the platform last year. Two, we connected more than 31 million unique riders with EVs last year. And three, we are now one of 30 US-based companies with approved targets on the Science Based Testing Initiative. We strongly encourage governments, automakers, taxi fleets, mobility tech companies, and others developing products and services for the transportation sector to adopt and report on EV miles or kilometers traveled as a standard and highly comparable metric. We know that making these changes, while hard, is the right thing to do for our customers, our cities, our stakeholders, and the planet we all share. It's going to take all of us more actions, more urgency to defeat this threat. Thank you.
Across the world. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to turn the spotlight onto India and South Asia by inviting onto the dais someone who's responsible for growth in these regions. Our upcoming speaker, ladies and gentlemen, leads the mobility business for India, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, and will be sharing more details about how Uber is reimagining sustainable mobility in India. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Uber's India and South Asia President, Mr. Prabjeet Singh.
Good afternoon and thank you for being here. Good to just see so many familiar faces. Thank you for making the time, and also great to see many of our business partners making the time to join us today. Today, I want to talk to you about something which is deeply important, not just for Uber, but for our country, and also for me personally, which is our journey to truly power and turbocharge India's EV revolution. As someone who has grown up in this city, as someone who has seen the impact of more private vehicles, often polluting vehicles being added at scale to cities, and what it does to our cities and the environment around. As a father to 2 young daughters, this is personal. But today, I am so thrilled to talk to you about the plan on which we are going to truly transform and take, which are pretty major steps towards our commitment about electrifying and moving India to be emission-free. We truly believe the future of mobility in markets like India is going to be shared, multimodal, and electric. Shared vehicles today tend to be 8 times more utilized than a private vehicle. And we have seen that happen also in the way we have built our network in the market over the last 10 years. Many of you are users, very, very vocal users who also give us great feedback, and thank you for that. But the fact that the country has embraced shared mobility at such large scale shows that we are beginning to make a difference. Second, multimodality. Imagine if you need to come to this location, but we visualize a future, and parts of it are already live. If you're coming in from Gurgaon to Leela in Chanakyapuri, you could fire up the Uber app, request for an Uber Moto to take you to the metro station of Uda City Center, be able to actually show a barcode of a ticket on the Delhi metro, get into Delhi city, you have Uber Auto waiting for you, which will bring you to the venue. And in the evening, during congestion hours, you may actually decide to take an Uber shuttle back from here to Gurgaon. And that is a future which is multimodal, is what we are trying to build. And we hope to collaborate with many of you and many of the stakeholders in the ecosystem to do that. And third, we truly believe that the time has come for us as a country, and more importantly for ride-hailing as an industry, to start taking major steps towards going electric. Now, great transitions often take time to truly take off. But when they do so with momentum and gusto. And that's what we are envisaging when it comes to electrification. We started on this journey, I must confess, in baby steps. About 3 years back, starting to put few vehicles on the platform across 4-wheelers, 3-wheelers, 2-wheelers. Many of the form factors were not even existing. They were real challenges, and some of them still are, on cost of the vehicles. Infrastructure is obviously an issue. But slowly, with the learnings which we had, and with support of great partners, we have begun to put more vehicles on the platform. Over the last 3 years, we have seen this number grow 6x. And this is the time where we truly believe we're going to see some acceleration. And I'll share with you how that will happen. We truly believe sustainability is a team sport. No one stakeholder in the ecosystem can do it alone. This is a monumental generational shift which we need to make. When it comes to ride-hailing, and as a leader in the ride-hailing space, to give you a sneak peek on what we believe is the team sport approach which we will be taking towards this. Number one, we need to deploy emission-free vehicles and so have the appetite to make forward-looking commitments required to invest ahead of time. This is where our fleet partners come in. Second, we have a role to play in being able to enable access and affordability. Access to vehicles, affordability to better financing terms, and also affordability and access to the charging infrastructure, which still will take time to get built out. And it's important that people and players with expertise and scale who know that well are able to do that. And we play a role in bringing them together. And third is the consumer. Folks like you, folks like our friends and family outside. How do we make it easy for them to opt into an emission-free vehicle? So can we create more consumer choices? You heard Mac talk about many of these features and products which we have introduced in global markets. Based on the experience of developed markets where we have now through trial and experience and working with partners, learned a lot, we will accelerate some of this for the market. But at the heart of it is also going to be a role which our policymakers need. We continue to objectively and in a data-based manner advocate for policies which will support electrification of ride-hailing industry much faster. Just to give you an example, today we are fully making a case for saying how subsidies which the government and both at the federal level and the state level are providing should be directed more towards commercial vehicles, which tend to be on the road much longer, tend to have higher utilization, which means every dollar, every rupee spent in that subsidy goes much longer. We are also advocating and partnering in multiple cities to really work on how and where should public charging infrastructure should be set up. We obviously need them in high-footfall areas like airports, but we also need it in pockets where many of drivers from the ride-hailing industry come from, which often might be suburbs. So it is a team sport, and And that is why it requires many of us to come together. And that is the spirit of how our plans and deployment for the country are going to play out. First, the zero emission vehicles. Today, we are announcing and sharing the list of partners who we are incredibly privileged to partner with, who will deploy 25,000 electric cars on the Uber platform over the next few years. Everest Fleet, one of the largest ride-hailing fleet partners already working with Uber, is beginning to electrify a certain proportion of the new vehicles they're adding. Lithium Urban Technologies, India's leading B2B EV operator, is partnering with us to be able to deploy new vehicles in multiple cities across the country. And Move, which is a leading strategic partner with Uber globally and has recently started operations in India, is also going to commit to put an incredibly large number of electric vehicles over the next multiple quarters. These are partners who know partners how to run EVs. They have the depth and scale and the vision to partner with Uber to be able to deploy these vehicles. For that, we're deeply grateful. Talking about access and affordability. But before that, one of the form factors which we also spoke about was two-wheelers. We do believe, and you heard Max speak about two-wheelers playing a very critical role in the mobility ecosystem. Now, whether those two-wheelers actually be IC or they also be EV. And what's interesting, as we have scaled our two-wheeler network, which is Uber Motor, we have also seen incredible momentum on electrification of two-wheelers. So today, we are also announcing a partnership with a leading two-wheeler electric fleet, Zip, to deploy nearly 10,000 electric two-wheelers across multiple markets by 2024. By the way, as we speak, more than 1,000 of them are already on the road. Shifting gears, access and affordability. We are also privileged to announce our partnership with Tata Motors, something which we spoke about, which is allowing access to 25,000 vehicles, which will be purchased by our strategic fleet partners. And many of you often ask me, what is the progress around this? Late February is when we announced this MOU, and as we speak, nearly 1,000 of the vehicles are already in the process of being deployed on the road. And that just gives you a sense of the approach which we are taking, solving for vehicles, solving for being able to deploy these vehicles at scale. But here comes the real challenge, financing. And today, we are also announcing an MOU with the leading financier to micro enterprises in the country, which is SIDBI. It's a privilege that they are extending a 1,000 crore loan line to our strategic fleet partners to be able to deploy. Beyond financing, the biggest challenge in electrification comes from charging infrastructure. We're so thrilled to extend and expand our existing BP bus partnership, which Matt spoke about, to India, in partnership with GeoB, which already has one of the largest networks in the country. And we look forward to partnering with them to both use their existing infrastructure as we scale up our deployment of vehicles, but also build new infrastructure in pockets where we see the need. We're also partnering with emerging players like GMR for specific pockets where they will have access to deploying EV infrastructure. This goes back to our core commitment and approach on how we will electrify and turbocharge the revolution in the country. There's truly an opportunity for multiple players to come together. But yet, these are still baby steps. There's still more to be done. And we need to continue on this march over the next several quarters to be able to truly fulfill the commitment of net zero. But also, on the consumer side, I am so thrilled to announce the launch of our flagship global product, Uber Green, in India. Be ready that in Delhi, Bangalore, and Mumbai, over the next quarter to 2 quarters, you will see tons of Uber Green vehicles on the road. You will be able to open the Uber app and request for an Uber Green vehicle. I must caution, in the beginning it may take a little longer than the regular Uber Premium, Uber Go vehicle to turn up as more vehicles get added. But as we do that, and as more of you experience the product, I'm pretty sure that you will start opting into it, and we will bring to the table the best of our global experience of having built Uber Green now for nearly 100 cities globally. So push a button, get an EV ride. Just to bring it all together, don't stop till zero. You'll see us talking about this. This is not an ask we are making of others.
And I would also like to request Mr. Macdonald to please join me as we are about to reach the much awaited photo opportunity. Mr. Macdonald and Mr. Singh are requested to please be back on stage with me towards this side. Gentlemen, cameras out, and we get set to capture the moment which truly defines Uber, ushering in a new era in India's sustainable mobility ecosystem. There we go, Uber Green, that is all set to bring in and herald a new era. Exciting times, ladies and gentlemen, as Uber goes electric in India with Uber Green. This is what you want to capture, media friends. I request all of you to keep your cameras on as we will take it further in just a few minutes from now. To do the honors by flipping the switch on the charging port. This is the moment, ladies and gentlemen.
India is one of our most important markets globally. It's our third largest market in the world by volumes. It's one of our largest engineering footprints in the world with our 2 centers in Bangalore and Hyderabad. It's an area we're innovating a lot on our growth products, specifically 2-wheelers, 3-wheelers, and our high-capacity vehicles or buses and shuttles products. And it's going to be, I think, probably the single country in the world that will disproportionately drive our growth for the next 10 years. So it's absolutely critical. I think it's only growing more critical in our portfolio, and you'll see us continue to invest a lot in India as a result.
On a daily basis, but here is where our confidence and optimism is coming from. Number one, the pace and progress which we have seen in the market over the last 2 years. So we have seen, for example, what multiple players, and some of them are in the room, have done in deploying the infrastructure. Is that sufficient to meet all the requirements? Possibly no, but does that give us the confidence to work with the partners to deploy more? Absolutely. Second, if you look at the global experience, often one needs to be able to make forward-looking commitments and plans which will allow then everybody in the ecosystem, vehicle owners, financiers, charging infra deployers, to be able to put the infrastructure in the right place. You can see these are steps which we are taking, which will then, we believe, unlock a lot more potential. And third, if you truly look at the thinking which is going around the design of the infrastructure, today we now already have very strong data on where we think the charging infrastructure should be deployed. Imagine being able to combine that, for example, what we're doing with BP globally and now with, say, GeoBP locally, we'll be able to actually together identify those locations. It is not a 1 quarter, 2 quarter journey. It is a multi-year journey which we are taking, and I'm pretty confident we should be able to navigate. Will that be a straightforward journey without any hiccups? Possibly no. We'll have some challenges on the way, and we will continue to figure out, along with our partners in this.
Is really about the momentum we're getting bringing electric vehicles to the platform. So without all the elements we talked about today, vehicles, fleet partners, financing, charging infrastructure, and government support, it wouldn't be possible. 2 years ago when we started launching Uber Green and we talked about the potential for electrification and EVs in India, I recall this team saying, we're not ready, right? And it may be many years, not 2 years, but many years until India is ready. And I think we've been pleasantly surprised by how fast the progress has been. So We're launching soon because the supply side is ready. We think the infrastructure is getting ready, and we know the consumer demand is there. I think that's the other key thing to understand is Indian consumers care about price, they care about reliability, but I think they increasingly care about sustainability, and so we're going to give them that.
The focus for the first phase is going to be on 3 cities, and then we'll be extending it to 4 additional cities. We will focus on going deep and really building sustainable networks, improving reliability on this experience before we evaluate expansion beyond. I think this itself is going to be a monumental lift, but I am pretty confident there will be a time where we'll be able to come back and tell you our expansion plans beyond this also. Network, our commitment to be emission-free is a multi-year journey. We are committing to be emission-free in India by 2040, hopefully sooner, but we will continue to update you on the plans as it plays out. 2 data points. We already have an 800,000 active earner base on the platform. What we are doing today as a commitment to put 25,000 electric cars and 10,000 two-wheelers is still a small percentage of the total network, which will take time for us to electrify. So it's a journey which will play out. Second, more importantly, long term, we do believe that electrifying on shared mobility could long term actually create opportunities to really improve economics for driver partners and fleets, would also eventually bring down prices based on how the infrastructure gets deployed. So we are pretty confident that we will be able to, over a period of time, continue to make sure that our service is the most affordable, most reliable, and increasingly more and more electric.
There's been some big shifts, like broadly, as it relates to electrification on our platform. I think if you look back a couple of years, EVs were more expensive to purchase. There was no secondary market, so you couldn't buy a used EV. It was more expensive to maintain and repair EVs. The supply chain was slower, the availability was less, the ability to finance was less. All of that's changing, right? And I think what's happening now globally is that the total cost of ownership for an EV versus an ICE is starting to cross to actually be in a place in many countries, and I don't think we're there yet in India, but it's coming, where you actually have a lower total cost of ownership as a driver or a fleet in an EV versus an ICE. And that is a very, very big shift, because what we expect is that over time the operating cost for an EV, again for a fleet or a driver, will actually be lower, not just fuel, but maintenance and repair, safety, insurance, all these other components. And so if you get to a world where the upfront cost is comparable or less, if you get to a world where the operating cost is lower, and on top of that you have consumers preferring this, I actually think you can end up with a cheaper product that is a greater scale than our existing.
Specific numbers for this year, this is the process. Over the next 3 years, we are deploying 25,000 electric cars, and we shared specifics of that. In terms of our introductory pricing, we're still working through the details. I don't expect it to be at a premium to some of the comparable services which we offer. As when we do share more details about the exact service, the exact city, we will definitely make sure that it is super price competitive, because we do want tons and tons of users to actually use the service. And as Max said, over a period of time, the TCO, the total cost of ownership for electric vehicle will come down, and it will continue to make sure that the service is super affordable. As we speak there are nearly 1,000 electric cars in the process of being deployed, and there are already 1,000 plus two-wheeler electric bikes on the road. I fully believe that as a platform, we do create incredible opportunities for women drivers to join the platform. We also believe that electric vehicles will actually, especially when those vehicles get deployed through fleets, will reduce barriers to entry for more women to join the platform. Because the challenge of asset ownership and the effort required to purchase that vehicle goes down, because the fleet partners are actually making that easy to access. So we are confident that we will be able to attract more women drivers. The reality is it is challenging, and we need to stay at it, and hopefully we'll be able to make significant progress on that.
Thank you so much for your question. I hope that answers it sufficiently. We are very sorry.
1,000 vehicles on the road, and make sure we commit to that. We are committing to making sure for India, we will be 100% emission free by 2040. But given how Uber operates, how our internal culture is, we set a goal, we like to beat that and then raise the bar. So hopefully we'll be able to share more on that as that happens.
Team sport, and so you really need the ecosystem to be ready to go. That means you need vehicle supply, so you have to partner with OEMs like Tata. You need buyers of those vehicles, which is why we talked about some of our fleet partners today, Everest and Lithium. You need charging infrastructure, which is, again, while we're bringing along our global partnership with BP. And then, of course, you need consumer demand, which we think is there. So the reason we're launching today, or announcing the launch today, is because we think that team is ready, and we want to continue to work with those stakeholders as well as positive government policy to bring this to life. And I think it's going to be really quick from here, so it's going to feel slow then fast, but we're ready to go.